Nightcrawler teleports underneath Johnny to make sure he doesn't get hurt and tells him to relax. Unfortunately, Nightcrawler screams in pain as Johnny takes off. Wolverine and Ben face each other, tension building between them. Up above, Sue watches as Johnny attacks Storm and asks Ben if he understands the chaos he's caused. Ben, surprised by Sue's accusation, reminds her that Storm started the fight with Johnny. Reed steps in to explain that Storm might have been defending Wolverine, who had been irritated by Ben. Wolverine adds that he's not bothered by it anymore. He gets ready to charge at Ben, but Sue uses an invisible wall to separate them. Frustrated, Ben asks Sue to lower the barrier so he can fight Logan, but she stands her ground and refuses. Logan, always fast with making fun of others, teases Ben for staying behind a woman. Suddenly, a strong voice speaks inside all of their heads, telling them to stop. The uneasy feeling goes away, and they look at the broken mansion doors, where Emma Frost shows up. She says that the ringing in their heads will stop soon, and apologizes for using her telepathic powers. Emma points out that their behavior was like that of some of her students. Emma then looks at Reed and asks if he and his team want to come to the living room for a serious talk about the break-in. A short while later, the Fantastic Four meet with some X-Men in the living room. Outside the living room window, 3 students watch the Fantastic Four with surprise. Sophie excitedly exclaims, "Hey, look, it's the Fantastic Four!" While Josh tries to get a better look through the window, Laurie openly wonders why they're here. Inside the living room, the Fantastic Four are greeted by the same 4 X-Men they saw outside, along with Cyclops, Beast, and Gambit. Emma acknowledges that their sudden arrival took her by surprise. She then questions if their phones at the Baxter building weren't working. Recognizing the awkward situation, Reed apologizes for his team's sudden arrival. He understands that their visit might seem unexpected, but he explains they had a good reason for coming. In her usual not-so-friendly way, Emma asks them what they want. She wonders if they need help with a PR stunt to improve their image by gathering troublesome mutants. Not wanting things to get worse, Cyclops tells Emma to stop and asks Reed to explain their request. Reed confesses that he was hoping to speak with Charles about it first. However, Wolverine jumps in with a smile, telling Reed that he doesn't know the current situation. Charles Xavier is no longer in charge. He's gone, and the mansion is now under the care of Scott and Emma. Reed looks disappointed upon learning about the change in leadership. He expresses his need to continue the discussion with Xavier. Reed then asks if they can use their television to make it easier to explain. He turns on the TV, showing an image of a space station that Storm recognizes as the Simulacra. Reed confirms it and goes on to provide more details. He explains that earlier in the day, the Mars lander was supposed to return to the Simulacra after a year of collecting data. Initially, everything seemed fine during the connection. However, the television displays a distressing scene of the left side of the Simulacra exploding. This event happened 9 hours ago, and there has been no communication with the Simulacra's crew since. Cyclops wants to know how many people were on the Simulacra. Reed tells him there were 12 people on the station, and 6 more on the retrieval team, making a total of 18 crew members. When Cyclops asks about survivors, Reed isn't sure. They've been unable to establish contact, as if something is blocking all signals in and out of the station. Beast suggests that the explosion might have created a strange field around the station, causing the communication problem. Reed agrees that it's a possibility, but points out that they received reports of a breach before the explosion. With the discussion heading in a certain direction, Beast asks if Reed suspects that something might have hidden on the Mars lander and infiltrated the Simulacra. Storm expresses concern about why the Fantastic Four asked their help. Reed then reveals his plan to use Cerebra, surprising everyone in the room. Emma questions how he even knows about Cerebra. Reed explains that Professor Xavier had once mentioned it to him and described its ability to locate mutants worldwide. He hopes to modify Cerebra to scan for life on the Simulacra. Emma says the idea won't work, and she points out that the huge distance makes it impossible. Thing, in a somewhat mocking tone, asks Emma if she's not up to the task. Gambit, with a smile, advises Thing to be careful with his words around Emma. This comment angers Emma, and she responds by calling Thing an ignorant piece of rock, stating that no telepath on Earth could handle such a task. Thing looks happy with Emma's fiery response, telling her she's now speaking his language. Cyclops turns to Reed and asks if the device would function if a telepath could get close to the Simulacra. Reed believes it's possible, but Beast adds that it would only work if the strange field doesn't interfere. Emma looks at Scott and questions if he's seriously suggesting that they go into space. Scott, determined, points out that there might be men and women up there who are still alive, and they represent the only hope. Emma firmly states that she won't go into space. Cyclops tries to reason with Emma. He reminds her of his close call when he almost lost his father in space but managed to bring him back. He requests with her to consider the families of those people on this simulacra. Shouldn't they, at the very least, try to bring their fathers and mothers back? The Thing raises a valid point, expressing his concern about how they plan to get into space without a spaceship. Gambit steps in, taps the Thing on the shoulder, and suggests that the Fantastic Four aren't the only ones with powerful connections. Wolverine signals for the Fantastic Four to follow him to the garage to see their solution. In the garage, the Fantastic Four are introduced to the X-Plane. Reed examines it briefly and acknowledges that with a few adjustments, it could be made space-ready. The Thing, however, is more doubtful, believing that the plane will require more than just a few modifications. To make the Thing feel better, Beast tells him that the X-Plane has the best Shi'ar technology, making it one of the best in the galaxy. Impressed, the Thing asks if it comes with any impressive extra features. Beast explains that it includes shielding, propulsion, and pressurization that even NASA would be impressed with. Reed adds that with some adjustments to the doorway and connection gear, they should be able to access the simulacra. A new problem arises as Cyclops enters and reveals that there are only 6 seats in the X-Plane. Cyclops explains that there is 1 seat reserved for Emma, given her telepathic abilities, leaving 5 more seats available. Beast takes notes and suggests that if there are survivors on the simulacra, they should be part of the mission. He also advises that those with energy-emitting powers, like Cyclops, the Human Torch, and Storm, should stay behind. Reed proposes that the heavy hitters, namely the Thing and Wolverine, should go in case there was a breach. The Thing apologizes to the Human Torch, who won't be joining. Cyclops recommends Nightcrawler and Gambit for their unique abilities. Gambit expresses his gratitude for the compliment. Suddenly, Sue steps forward and decides to take the last seat. Reed is unsure, but Sue explains that her invisible shields can protect them if something goes wrong in space. Wolverine, always to the point, says, "Well, up and away we go." Sometime later, the X-Plane is ready for launch. Reed and Sue share a heartfelt hug, acknowledging that it might be their last. Emma and Scott share a kiss. Emma notices Sue looking at her brother and husband, and she asks if she isn't used to this kind of situation by now, given all she's been through. Sue responds by saying that one never gets used to leaving family behind. Emma takes a look at Scott and then boards the plane. The 6 heroes secure themselves in their seats, prepared for their journey to the simulacra. In the silence of space, Sue turns to Emma and notes the closeness between her and Scott. Emma acknowledges their relationship, and Sue asks how the other X-Men are reacting to it. Realizing that Sue is referring to Scott's past with Jean Grey, Emma, feeling a bit offended, suggests they handle it similarly to how they deal with Namor's visits. The conversation falls silent. Up in the control room, Nightcrawler playfully suggests renaming themselves the Fantastic Six or X4. Wolverine firmly tells Nightcrawler to save the chatter because they've reached the simulacra. Nightcrawler is taken aback by the wreckage, barely holding together on one side. As the X-Plane heads for connection, Wolverine warns the Thing to watch out for scattered objects. Sue observes that the remaining part of the station seems stable, indicating that the inner blast doors held. Gambit suggests that the Thing park the plane on the other side of the station with the Titan ship. The Thing agrees, and Wolverine turns to Emma, urging her to reveal if their journey was worthwhile. Emma uses her telepathic abilities and senses the presence of survivors, possibly 6, all filled with fear. Nightcrawler wonders what terrifies them, and Wolverine explains that being trapped in space is terrifying on its own. He asks Emma if she senses anything else, but she reports only fear. Sue comforts the team by telling them that knowing there are survivors is okay, and it's time to enter and save the day. Nightcrawler reports that the connection area is pressurized, and the outer doors are opening. Sue creates a protective barrier just in case, and the Thing takes the lead, with Wolverine extending his claws, ready for any potential danger. As the team enters the connection area and approaches the inner doors, Emma closes the outer doors. The Thing prepares to open the inner doors, and Wolverine urges him to do so. As the doors slide open, Wolverine welcomes the team to the simulacra, ready to see who's open for business. Hidden in the darkness, a group of brood aliens is waiting for them to arrive.